good, everybody? It's your boy Icon back again with another week of DC TV. Kicking it off, Legends of Tomorrow. This is episode 2 entitled Meet the Legends. I see what you did there. So, in this episode, it takes place where the last one left off, where we had all these aliens dropping out of the sky and falling through like the temporal time zone and ending up in different places in time. So now the Legends are just like, they're trying to figure out like, oh, we got to clean up this mess. And then Mick's like, oh, that sounds like unpaid labor. And is it just me, or is Mick losing his accent? Like, there are moments throughout the episode where he was talking and I'm like, why does he sound different? I feel like because the actor is leaving the show, it's almost like he's phoning it in at this point. But anyway, so the plan is, so Ava's whole plan is, she's like, well, first of all, we do have to clean up the timeline, so we got to go around and find these aliens. But then, Ava was just like, what we're going to do is we're going to use Spooner to basically talk to the aliens and interrogate them so we can find Sara. But, we got to find one first. So let's find an alien, capture him, and then have Spooner do her thing. And then Spooner immediately was just like, nah, bitch. Because she was like, the only reason why I'm even on the ship was because you were supposed to remove like that alien technology from her brain. And then Gideon was just like, apologies, but there's nothing to remove from your brain. And then now she's just like, yo, some bullshit. She was like, you guys lied to me. You dragged me and tricked me to come on the ship. And then Ava was just like, yo, well, we need your help to find Sara. And then she's like, yo, I ain't signed up for that. She was just like, take me home because y'all lied about taking the alien stuff out of my brain. So now she's like, so now I don't want to be here. And then Ava was just like, oh, she was just like, just help us find the aliens, help us find Sara. Then once we find Sara, she was like, I'll take you anywhere you want to go on the goddamn planet. Gideon then pulls up some information because the timeline, because now that the aliens are actually being dropped in different moments during time, the timeline kind of shifted a little bit because Gideon always gets like early reports about timeline changes, which allows the Legends time to put those changes back to normal before they cement and solidify into into existence. But she said that back in 1955, and I don't know why whenever it's time travel it's always 1955. She said that back in 1955 a restaurant called Big Bang Burger, ended up having a massacre where something ended up murdering a bunch of people at the burger joint. So they're just like, all right, obviously that's an alien, so let's go down there and check it out. So the whole Legends team, they go down there, and Constantine was funny because they were all dressed up in 1955's like, attire, and John Constantine had 1955 attire on. It was still like the long coat with the pant, like with the beige pants and the suit. I thought that was like a nice little touch. So they basically split up into two groups. So you got Ava, you got John, and you got Spooner, and then you got Zari, Bayrod, and Nate. And then Mick was with them as well. So Mick was basically scamming police scanners. The rest of them were going around like, talking to people. They ended up meeting like this black girl that worked at the diner, and then she was just like, oh, like it's the greatest burger and everything of all time. Nate, Bayrod, and Zari, they ended up trying the burgers, but then, Zari, she was just like, like, I don't eat meat. And then she had like this little powder thing. She was like, oh, this is like some cleansing herbal powder that's supposed to like relieve all the bad energy from your mind or some bullshit like that. And then she gets into a conversation with Bayrod where she's talking to Bayrod. She's like, listen, bro, she's like, I'm a legend now. She's like, I help you guys save the universe and save the world. So she said, I think it's time that we officially share the totem. So this way I can have superpowers too. And we can go back and forth as a superhero brother and sister thing. Bayrod wasn't really feeling the idea because he's always lived in the shadow of Zari. And he's always been known as Zari's like younger brother. So for him, he was kind of like, having the totem was the one thing that he could keep for himself that he didn't have to share. So the two of them kind of butted heads on that. And then, and they went back and forth throughout the episode. Mick ended up getting some chatter on a police scanner that there was like some guy downtown that was going crazy. So Ava, Constantine, Spooner, and Mick, they go down there to check it out. And then when they go down there to check it out, they ran up on some dude because Spooner's power started kicking in because she was just like, I sense an alien presence. There's an alien here. And it kept getting like stronger and stronger and stronger. When they ran up on the person and captured the person that Spooner was getting the vibes from, it ended up being one of the workers from the burger joint who was dressed up in an alien costume. So at first they were just kind of like, you basically just like ran up on somebody dressed up like an alien. There's like, that's not what we're looking for, Spooner. And then Spooner was like, bitch, I don't even know how these powers work like that. So I'm just need you to get up off my back real quick. But then when they looked at the guy had like, secret sauce like dripping all over his face. So then they were just like, does this look like somebody who's perfectly fine to you? So, so then Ava was just like, okay, fine. She was like, let's just bring him aboard the ship. So they bring the guy aboard the ship. And then, he's in the ship. Gideon's doing her thing. And then Gideon determined that there's an element inside this person's body that's making him react crazy. When they analyzed it, when they separated and analyzed it, they found out that what was going on was the secret sauce from the burger joint was making this guy go crazy and crave meat. Like the more sauce he had, the more he wanted to eat meat. So now they're just like, oh my God, the secret sauce is the alien. At one point, Spooner was getting a reading based on every single person in the vicinity. And then she was just like, oh, the alien's over here. No, now it's over there. She's like, I can't pinpoint it. And the reason why she couldn't pinpoint it was because the secret sauce was in everyone's body. So she was feeling like vibes from like every single person. So then Ava hits the other, team B, and then she's just like, hey guys, we need you to snatch up that secret sauce because the secret sauce is apparently, like making everybody go crazy. All three of them had taken jobs at the burger joint just so they can kind of scout things out. And then, now that they have the jobs and they determine, and then Ava told her, she was like, yo, get that secret sauce off the table. They ended up like getting rid of the customers, and they were telling everybody like, oh, go away, health violations, it's been shut down. The owner shows up and he's like, why are you chasing away my customers? And then they were just like, yo, bro, he's like, yo, the sauce that you're giving people is making people go crazy. And then the black girl that worked there, she came out like a zombie, and then she just started like eating burgers out of a trash can or whatever. And then they were just like, yo, tell us where you got the sauce. And he's like, I got the sauce from my wife. It's my wife's secret recipe. So then Nate and them, they're just like, oh, you got to go talk to the guy's wife because his wife is claiming that that she's the one that created the sauce. Ava and the gang, they go down to the house and they're about to interrogate the wife. And then, after that, Spooner's whole thing was she was just like, look, it's some bullshit. She's just like, I ain't signed up for this. And she's just like, you're sitting here obsessing over this alien thing, over this alien situation. And she's just like, you kind of just need to embrace the fact that Sara could be gone. And then, Ava got mad and she was just like, I'll never do that. And then she's like, I'll do it myself. So Ava goes into the house to go talk to the wife. And kudos to the actress playing Ava Sharp because she pulled off the 1955 like lingo and look. She actually did that very well. I thought that was really cool. So she's talking to the wife. They're doing the whole like I do declare and like, my husband and the family business and blah, 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 the American dream. And then while they were talking, some random goo ended up falling out of the ceiling and it bust Ava right on the nose. And then when Ava looked up, she was just like, yo, I think I found something. So she ended up telling the wife, she's like, oh, I think I'm just going to take my leave. And then she snuck around back and went upstairs to the attic. When Ava got to the attic, she found out that there was like a cocoon sitting in this woman's attic that was dripping pus. Spooner and Constantine, they went out back to the garage and then they found like an alien pod ship where the alien came from. So they were just like, yo, the alien's here. Like the alien crash landed here. This lady took it in, so we got to go find Ava. So now the woman, she knocked Ava out when Ava had a back turn, and then she told her, she was just like, oh, this little darling crash landed out of the sky. And she was just like, at first I put him in the attic as a pet, but then, like her goo dripped all over my husband's food, and then he tasted it, and then we decided to use the goo as a secret sauce, and then it kept our family in business, and I ain't gonna let you take that away from me. So that was her whole thing. That was her whole thing. And everybody was kind of grossed out by that because they were just like, yo, you willingly put that, you willingly put alien goo on people's hamburgers. And she was just like, oh, whatever keeps the family business alive. And then, Spooner showed up and knocked her out. Constantine knocked her out. But then the cocoon started to hatch because Spooner got a feeling from the cocoon. And then she was like, yo, she said, I can feel the cocoon's emotions. She said that it's craving like human flesh. All it's doing was the whole thing with the goo, with the putting the goo on the burgers or whatever, it's basically sizing up the town. So this way, when the cocoon hatches, it'll have plenty of people that it can eat, and it can destroy the whole town. And then that's when they remembered the thing that Gideon said about the newspaper and the whole town massacre. The massacre came from when this thing came out of the cocoon and basically killed everybody in town. So the cocoon breaks, it flies up into the sky. It's like this big old moth looking thing, and then it takes off and it starts going to the to the Big Bang burger joint. Zari and Nate's there, like Bayrod is there. And at this point, the townspeople now started bum rushing the burger joint because since they all have the goo in their system, they're obsessed now with getting their hands on meat, and they need all the meat that they can get from the burger joint. So they're trying to break into the burger joint to get this meat. And then at that point, Zari and Bayrod decided like, oh, let's team up, Bayrod. And then, Bayrod gave her the totem, and then Bayrod made burgers for them. Zari used her secret like herbal powder thing because what they were saying was the herbs and spice thing, like the natural herbs and spice thing that Zari came up with, could counteract the goo inside everybody's body. So they sprinkled that stuff all over the burgers. They fed everybody the burgers. The people ate the burgers and passed out. But the problem now is, now that you got all these human beings that have passed out, here comes the moth now now to eat them, and they can't run or hide because everybody's passed out. And I thought this was a good moment for Nate to actually steal up. Like, it could have been a situation where the moth tried to eat him and then he steeled up and then it didn't work because he's made out of steel. Every season of Legends, Nate uses his power less and less and less. Like, they keep coming up with reasons for Nate not to use his power. And I guess it's like, obviously in this particular episode, Nate's powers weren't in the budget because they needed all the budget money, for the big moth and then for the whole Sara storyline. But anyway, so, so instead the moth ends up eating like the store owner. He ends up eating him. And then when the moth is flying around, like Spooner, Ava, and Constantine, they show up again. They're looking at the moth, and then Spooner's just like, hey, Captain, is this another one of those situations where you want us to bring the alien in so we can interrogate it? And then Ava was like, nah, shoot that bitch. And then Spooner took her gun that she still hasn't explained where she got it from, because it's capable of not only killing aliens, but it also put a hole in the Wave Rider. So that's a special gun. She used her gun to basically shoot the moth. The moth got bug zapped up against some cables. The moth died, and then they killed an alien. The whole team goes back to the ship. They check on the timeline, and then we find out that since the owner of Big Bang Burger was killed because of the moth, the black girl who used to work there, she ended up taking over the business. And then when they asked her, they said, oh, what are you going to do with the business now that you own it? And then she said she's going to change it. She's going to reopen the business, and she's going to call it like Big Belly Burger. And I was like, ha ha. That's how Big Belly Burger was created in the Arrowverse, which was cool. And it's owned by a black woman. And then after that, like Ava and Spooner, the two of them kind of like apologized to each other, for being bitches to each other throughout the whole episode. And then, Spooner, she told her the story about her mom. She's just like, she doesn't remember a lot what happened. She just remembers that she was with her mom. The aliens kidnapped both of them. And then when she woke up, her mom was gone. Like I keep saying before, Spooner is an alien. That's why she doesn't have any technology in her brain. That's why she can communicate with aliens, because even when they found the moth's like alien pod, Spooner was able to read the alien jargon that was on the pod. Spooner's an alien, and it's only a matter of time before we figure that out. No Astra in this episode, which actually made me sad. And then, Bayrod and Zari, the two of them were having a conversation. So now she's just like, oh, Bayrod, she's like, you can have the totem, I apologize. And he's like, nah, sis. He's like, yo, I'm gonna share it with you. She's like, but I don't want you to share it. He's like, nah, I'm gonna share it. And they end up going back and forth. And then we get a call back to OG Zari 1.0. And, I'm actually happy to see that, because I like new Zari too, but I also like the original Zari. And I thought we were done with her at the end of last season, but no, apparently she is going to come back, because she's the spirit that resides inside the Wind Totem. So it'll be cool, because now that they're going to use her more, I'm waiting for the episode where she pulls both Bayrod and 2.0 Zari into the totem, and all three of them have like one big family conversation. So this is cool. So it's cool to see, like, to get her back. And then in the Sara portion of the episode, Sara and Gary crash landed on an alien planet, and they ended up finding a dog. There was 3 moons and a dog on the planet. They followed the dog to like some old shack. And then when they were in the shack, this woman came out, with a gun to their head. And then Gary recognized the woman as Amelia Earhart. They asked her how she got here, and then she was like, I was just flying over the Pacific, then all of a sudden the plane went down, and she's like, I crash landed here, and I thought it was heaven, but apparently it's an alien planet. And then, they were just like, well, we're trying to get ourselves back to Earth. And she's like, oh, you can take me home. She told them to stay for dinner, and then she was just like, why don't y'all just stay for dinner, and then we could talk about getting me back home. But then after a while, Sara started asking her questions, and every time she asked her a question, she kept repeating the story about how she flew over the Pacific and ended up where she ended up. So then at that point, Sara was like, yo, this bitch is crazy, we out. And then when they tried to leave, she was just like, oh, you can't leave, then she grabbed Sara by the throat. Sara and Gary fought her off. She actually like stabbed Sara, like bit her or something. And then Sara has like an alien bite in her system now. They knocked out Amelia Earhart, and then they ran. After they ran, Sara was basically in the woods. She was kind of like passing out. And then Gary looked off into the forest, and he saw like these flashing lights coming towards them. And he thought they were like fireflies coming to like, bring them to safety. But maybe it's going to be more captives. And, hopefully we'll find out Is that the real Amelia Earhart? Is she just like an alien disguised as Amelia Earhart because the original Amelia Earhart did end up on that planet? You know, like there's a lot to be discussed here, because when Gary bust out that card deck of famous like female historians, he did that shit for a reason. So I think every single person on that card is probably going to pop up in some physical form at some point during the episode. The rumors that everybody's coming up with, and the rumors that I've been reading, because Gary said that his boss told him to seek out, some of the strongest fighters of all time and bring them back to him, everybody thinks that they're teasing Warworld. And the reason why they were looking for champions on the planet Earth was because of Warworld, and they're trying to get Sara to compete in Warworld. And if they do that, that'd be actually really dope if they do Warworld, because you got Superman now. So if you want to do, and they already mentioned Warworld on Superman already. Like there was an episode where they were looking for Superman, and they're just like, oh, how come Superman's not here? And they said that he's off on Warworld somewhere. So that'd be cool if they bring that up, but we'll see, because we could get Mongo McMichael and the dude with the third eye. I can't remember his name. Thank you for tuning in. So decent episode of Legends. Like I said, it was a cool episode of Legend. You can tell that Mick Rory's character is completely checked out. Not a lot of Constantine in this episode. Spooner ended up calling his magic Huey, and I thought that was funny, because last season it was magical mumbo jumbo. This season it's a bunch of Huey. But again, like I said, I do want to learn more about Spooner's character, and I do want to see if we do get the tease for Warworld. So thank you for tuning in, guys. As always, check me out on social media. Check me out on Twitter, on Instagram. Check me out on YouTube. Give me your questions, comments, and concerns. There's a lot of us that we like talking about all the superhero stuff, so let's keep the conversation going. And check out the rest of my videos for this week in Arrowverse TV. So for Legends of Tomorrow, until next week, signing off, I'm out this bitch.